Hello, and welcome to Prog 495. Bit different, for we are, I shouldn't have done that, reviewing a book. Yes, this is Phil Collins' Not Dead Yet autobiography, the autobiography. And I'm going to show off because look, I got a signed one. I got a limited edition signed copy. Look there you go. I think books are the only thing that you can get signed because it makes sense, you see, because they never, there's always a little sleeve that you can put your John Hancock on. So yeah, this came out on last week, Friday. Was it Friday? I can't remember what day it was. It came out. I've been reading it over the weekend, and yeah, it's 400 and whatever. How many pages is it? Because you want to know these things, don't you? I don't know how many pages is it. It's 470 something. Do your research, including all the 447, 48. Call it 448 pages, including acknowledgements and indices. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily an autobiography, that I was looking forward to, but I thought it'd make interesting reading, especially with the latter years of Phil Collins's life and the dark times he's been going through. I thought it might put a little bit of detail on that story. Again, a lot of the stories we've heard before, a lot of the Genesis stories we've heard before, how he became into Genesis and his background in the theatre, all there laid out. But there's an awful lot of detail, fascinating amount of detail. Especially his early years, and all the parts he did and missed out on, ended up on the cutting room floor. That seemed to be his thing, and yeah, it's a really engaging read. In terms of the actual writing style itself, it's very easy to get into, and very easy to get lost in the book. You do feel that it's his voice, and there's not I know he had some help from a journalist to compile it, but you do feel that it's very much his voice that's speaking to you. The only problem is he could have done 3 volumes. There could have been a multiple, because there are so many stories. It's very dense with story and detail, and some stories and some parts of his life take precedent over other parts of his life. If you've come here expecting lots of detail about Genesis and them, recording their albums and doing things like that, then you're not going to get much out of that. You get more detail of him recording his solo material, but again, some of these stories you've heard before, being with John Martin and that kind of thing. There are no real big surprises there. Genesis fans, take note. Though you do get some detail from that, from like 2005, 2014 meetings where the band got together, and that's interesting to read about. But again, a lot of this stuff has been covered in interviews and things before. But no, you do get, it is very candid. It is a very candid book. You do get to know about his private life in detail, and again, you get to feeling that he really wanted to put forward his side of the story. This is what happened, and this is his version of events. And yeah, I mean, some of the stuff with his relationships breaking down is pretty tough to read. Again, his first marriage failed because he wasn't around enough. His second marriage failed because he had a massive midlife crisis. He denies this. He says it isn't. But if you're sitting there and reading about, him having a tryst with a girlfriend from the 60s, from the stage school that he went to, you can think, you're having a midlife crisis, mate. And then to hook up, I think he was 45, to hook up with a 21-year-old, definitely a midlife crisis. So though Mr. Collins will deny it. But you do get all the detail of that, and that part of it I found it's a bit depressing, really. But to hear about his stories of Live Aid and Led Zeppelin, that kind of thing, the musical tales I find are very worthwhile. The latter period is quite sad, really. He paints a very sad figure. I mean, he's a bit of a sad figure in the book, really, because there's this guy who's very talented, who is a multi-millionaire, who's flown all over the world, who's entertained millions of people, but you get a sense that he's just not happy, and he's very needy. There's like something missing in him, and again, I found that rather sad too. He doesn't want to be the housewife's favourite. He doesn't want to be Mr. Popular, but then he doesn't like being unpopular in the press when people slag him off. So he wants to be kind of this cool, in the middle kind of character. But of course, you can't be that. You can't be all things to all people. And so that you kind of get an idea of what his psyche is like, and how someone who was incredibly busy, mainly because he got all these amazing offers. And when your musical heroes say to you, "Do you want to make a record?" you're not going to say no. And so when you read him explaining why he was ubiquitous, I can't even say it's early in ubiquitous. Oh, it's late. This is what happens when I do these late night ones. I lose complete control of my tongue. Ubiquitous. Yes, that's better. You can understand why he was everywhere in the 80s, because he had all these opportunities come this way, and the more you do, the more you become in demand, and that's an interesting side to hear about. And he basically got to do everything he ever set out to do. So then when he decides to retire, there's a massive hole in his life, in his psyche, and he uses alcohol to fill that hole. And that's where you think, you sad little man. I just think it's really, really stupid. It's a really stupid turn to take when you've managed to avoid that, through the excesses of the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and zeros or whatever, and then you in your later life, you find yourself with a drink problem. But again, I guess that happens to the middle classes, a bottle of red a night, and next thing you know, your liver's screaming for help. So yeah, I mean, it is very candid. There's a lot of stuff, but it's a very personal thing. I really do think he could have done this over a number of volumes, and we could have a little bit more detail about his Genesis life and his solo life and whatnot. But we got what you got. Is it an essential read? I think it is. Of all the Genesis related biographies that have come out, it's certainly the best. It's well written, it's engaging, and once you get into it, it is hard to put down, because you want to, of course we know how the story ends, but you want to get inside the head of this man, and yeah, you get the feeling he is he can be a difficult son of a bitch, but there's also a vulnerability there, and it's a really strange juxtaposition of character traits. He comes across as tough, but not tough, but tough but vulnerable, stubborn, but it's it's very interesting to read, and I mean, I really got a lot out of it. I thought it was fascinating and a very brave book to write. So yeah. But then it puts to bed a lot of the ghosts, I think, that he felt were troubling him. So, fascinating stuff. But again, like I said, I do think that he could have, because he's done so many things, because there are so many anecdotes, because there are so many people he's worked with. Don't be surprised if there's another volume of this. I'd like to see another volume. But yeah, I mean, you can pick this up off of Amazon. I think it's about a tenner now. The paperback or Kindle's a lot cheaper. I'll put a linky so you can have a butcher's yourself. But yeah, I thoroughly recommend it. So You know, even if you're not a Phil Collins fan, maybe you're just a Genesis fan. You know, give it a go. Or even if you're not, it is probably one of the more interesting and engaging rock biographies out there. It's certainly very honest. So yeah, it gets five. It gets five. I don't know what would we. Five what? Five drumming gorillas out of five. There, 5 drumming gorillas out of 5. Only the people in the UK will know what I'm talking about. Dear old Cadbury's. And I thoroughly recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought it was brilliant and well worth the money, well worth the read. So there you go. What a boring review. Oh, I should have slagged it off. We've got more views then. But anyway, thank you for joining me. My name's been Darren, and I've been talking about Not Dead Yet. By that, they're Phil Collins from the Genesis and his solo career. Clammy the Cow. Mustn't forget Clammy the Cow. And thank you for joining me these early hours of the morning, because it's the school holidays, see? It's the school holidays, and so I have to do it, and I have to talk quietly, like I used to back in the old days, remember? and yeah, don't forget, give me all your money. There's links in the box below. I haven't forgotten, because I'm a cyber fame junkie, remember? And hopefully we'll do this all again soon. And one more thing to say, and you know what that is. It is Prog on, or boom 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 boom. Prog on.